Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Today we will be speaking about strategic business management and project management degree. Today with me is the program director from University of Law for Ingvarsson, yeah? Did I pronounce it correctly?
Very good.
And my colleague from work, Ali Jimmy. Good afternoon, for. How are you today?
I'm fine, thank you. I might have a bit of a cough because of allergies, but I'll definitely trust
we all have struggling with this allergy.
Before we start, can you tell us a little bit about your background? We know that you are University of Law program, postgraduate program director, but all the signatures next to your name looks impressive. MBA, FTMI, FHEA. Can you tell us a little bit about your background?
So I'm actually so the University of Law is split into, so that we got the law schools, which has been operative since 1876. But then more recently, they've added the business school. There's a school in psychology and school of policing. So we're kind of branching out and diversifying. And I'm sitting within the business school that was established in 2015 for undergrad, and postgrad came on board in 2018. So we're relatively young, dynamic business school, which kind of allows us to do things maybe slightly differently to other universities. But personally, my career started in banking and finance. Was there for about 10 years. Come from Iceland originally. Moved to London back in 1998 to work at a bank here on a fixed-term contract. Went back to Iceland to kind of re-establish my rights to a student loan. Came back here in 2002 and did an MBA, and then kind of slowly kind of progressed into the higher education sector, and started working first as a business development manager for the business school with another university, and then became a lecturer and kind of progressed into a program directorship here at the University of Law about 3 years ago. Just to explain these fancy words there, basically it's a fellow of the Higher Education Academy, which is a quality assurance body that makes sure that we're delivering things according to kind of the highest standards possible. The FCMI is basically a fellow of the Chartered Management Institute, which again is kind of the professional body in management that businesses have. And the MBA, obviously, my own kind of postgraduate degree, and then the PT director. So all very simple when it's laid out, but yeah, it's a bit of an alphabet soup there.
So to add this, I would say, certificates, you need to have master degree just for our interest, or you can do it at any time, like this.
The FEAT?
Yeah. Yes.
No, that is for lecturers.
Okay.
So for academic staff, so we have to, in order to become a fellow of the higher education. So the HEA stands for the Higher Education Academy. So that is kind of it's not a governing body, but it's kind of a quality body that is wanting to make sure that the lecturers are of a caliber that is fitting to actually stand in the classroom in front of students and teach. So it's about your pedagogic, kind of the way that you deliver your learning. So you can start off as an associate fellow. You can then move up to a fellow, become a senior fellow, and then I think it's some level above that, which is kind of more kind of reserved for very, very senior academic staff.
It takes many years, like.
No. You kind of, once you have experience in teaching, you then kind of apply to become a fellow, and you have to then fill in. You have to write a report. You have to then present it to a panel of peers that have been appointed by the Higher Education Academy, and then it kind of goes for an assessment, and you're awarded the fellowship, or you will have to resubmit.
Okay, thank you. So at least we know that we will have today the conversation with someone who is definitely educated and certified to give us all this.
I'm impressed. Look, I just pressed my hands and in front of the teacher,
Okay.
I'm very kind.
You finished MBA. So my question is also about the MBA as well. So what's the difference between strategic business management and project management and MBA? Because you have this knowledge as well.
So the MBA is kind of a general master's program. So it's kind of Master of Business Administration. It's what the MBA stands for. And basically it's it's kind of a more practical approach to things with an MBA, generally speaking. So you kind of get into all the fields that a business might be. You have some elements of strategy, some elements of finance, some elements of marketing, some elements of HR, so human resources, some elements of managing operations. So you kind of touch upon all of these so that once you finish your studies, you may not necessarily be an out-and-out specialist in these areas, but you know enough to be able to hold the conversation and understand what the specialists are doing, so you can kind of manage that. The MSCs are more scientific, so they're the Master of Science in those areas. So there is the expectancy of a bit more kind of research, kind of investigating literature. But as I mentioned in the intro, I'm the business school, the University of Law Business School, or ULBS as we call it for short. Because we're relatively new, we have taken a slightly different approach to our MSc degrees. So we tend to have them very practically focused. So our lecturers are people from industry. They bring into the classroom the more contemporary issues that industries are dealing with. They bring into the classroom their own experience, and they're talking about challenges and issues that companies are dealing with at this very moment in industry. And sorry?
It's all about experience it.
Well, it's the experience of the lectures is quite important, because when you're just learning the theory, you have the textbook and it's constantly talking about the theory of this, and this is kind of these analytical models, you need to apply them. And students, I myself included, I will be sitting there when I was doing my MBA and thinking, do companies really use this? And actually, yes, they do. Maybe not with that heading, but they use in the terminology, the methodology that are introduced through those models. So what we're trying to do in the classroom, because our lectures are not lectures, they're workshops. So there's the expectation that the students prepare before they come to class by going through some activities that we've identified and we have on our virtual learning environment. They then come into the class and do certain tasks. There will be a mini lecture to kind of just refresh the memories of what models they're going to be applying in this class, in this particular session. And then they just dive into kind of dealing with a case study or something that we pick up from the newspapers, is current, and say, so how can that possibly affect this particular industry or that particular company? What industry sectors might be affected by it? And this kind of brings to life and kind of bridges the gap between the theory and the reality that people are then faced with when they come out into the companies. And just to give you a bit of an anecdote, so we had in our early degrees, people could choose between doing a final business project, or do a short work placement of 3 months. And we were very pleased to hear when the employers came back to us after the students had been with them, and they were saying that they were actually very impressed with the up-to-date knowledge and approach and the practical approach that the students had in their work with the company. So we kind of found that kind of validated what we were trying to achieve in the classroom.
But what is the difference between the subject itself, strategic business management and project management?
So the strategic business management degree is possibly quite close to an MBA, in a sense that the modules that you're doing, for instance, is global business strategy, it's innovation management, and successful business ethics. Then you do finance with decision makers. So it's not finance as in accounting and finance. It's more kind of how can you, as a non-financial manager, understand finance? If you pick up an annual report, do you really understand what these ratios actually mean? What are they telling you about the company? Just to kind of interpret. So it's not kind of doing finance, but it's understanding it. Strategic human resource management, and so there are modules in there that kind of touch upon various aspects of a company's operation. So it makes the people that do strategic management, it makes it easier for them to be able to converse with those specialists. The project management, on the other hand, is not as kind of wide-ranging in that sense. So project management is more focused on project management methodologies and concepts, kind of how to manage projects, how to lead and develop people that are working in a project, because often when projects fail, obviously they say that it's not a question of doing the project right, but actually doing the right project. So because often there are several examples of where people have, or companies or organizations have ventured into doing a project that is not the right project to do. So it doesn't really matter how well they manage that project. If it's not the right project to start with, it's never going to be a success. But often when projects fail, it is because of communication. It's because people haven't been managed properly within, throughout, and outside of the process. So how do you liaise with the project team? How do they liaise with themselves? What kind of checks and balances are put in there to make sure that the project is on track? And then how is it then communicated to the wider stakeholder groups? And that is kind of what is covered in the project management. So there are certain, so the way that we construct our degrees here within the business school is that we split the degrees into management related degrees and finance related degrees. All the management related degrees are part of which the strategic business management and the project management degrees are part of the management degrees. They share 5 modules that they share. So they do the same modules, which are the global business strategy, the innovation management in a digital age, which is kind of all about kind of the technical environment we live in and how we can kind of manage within that and how it impacts kind of innovation and so on and so forth. And then success through business ethics. So these 3 modules are kind of what we refer to as hub modules, and both students from both degrees do that. And then we have the business project, the final business project, which all students have to do. And then one module we were actually really proud of, which is non-credit bearing, but students have to do it, which is professional development. So they have to do that in the semester they join, and that is kind of teaching them kind of leadership skills. It's talking about them, how they're going to develop themselves, do a professional development plan, basically how they're going to sell themselves in the job market once they graduate.
Okay.
And what is their brand?
Mm-hmm.
And so on.
But personal development plan in England, we're even learning on the HNDs, on the foundation year in business, international business. So it's like a recap for those people who were in earlier.
Yes, it's a bit more developed. So the development plan that students would do as part of their foundation year or within their undergraduate degrees, obviously, yes, where are you going to be in 3 years' time? And in a way that it is similar there. But when students go into a master's degree, because our degrees are what we refer to as conversion degrees. Mm-hmm. So the students are coming, so people doing project management do not have to have done any project management before. True. They just come fresh in. They could have an undergraduate degree in geography or nursing, and they just want to do project management. So there is no prior knowledge required, and the same applies to the strategic business management one. So the professional development plan, and we say to students, you're not going to come out of this degree as a fully fledged specialist in this area. When you graduate, you will have taken your first steps in becoming the specialist that you are wanting to be. So we're kind of talking about their continued professional development, introducing them to the notion of just because they've graduated from the degree, they haven't stopped or finished learning. And I sometimes use as an example, can you imagine if someone who works in IT had done the degree back in the 1980s or early 1990s, if they hadn't engaged in continuous professional development once they came out into the work market, they would have lost all this social media and all this digitalization and all this online experience. And these individuals, they need to keep themselves up to speed. So that is kind of part of the professional development. And then obviously the leadership element, kind of how you manage teams, how you manage across cultures and so on and so forth.
Yeah, and also we have many students, for example, from a bachelor degree from around the world, like from Poland. I'm Polish myself. And when they join master degree in UK, they never done in the past personal development plan. So definitely, yeah, it's helpful. And also University of Law have very good employability team. So starting from a personal development plan, they can focus on their future career, I think.
Absolutely, and the employability team actually is involved in the delivery of this module. So they deliver 4 of the 9 sessions, and the rest of it is delivered by our head of leadership and her team. So they are highly involved in that.
It's worth it also to say that students who starting their education in business with University of Law, when they move to master degree, the master will be for them for free. Which, yeah, you wanted to say something?
Yes. I'm only saying because there have been discussions whether how long that will continue.
Okay, but
So
still,
people,
still they can apply with this option, yeah?
I think it's still in force. Yeah, I don't think it's been removed yet. Yes. But
So
I would not want to kind of absolutely commit to that, because I know there have been some discussion about removing it, but I'm just not completely aware of where that stands at the moment. So
Yeah,
students, if they are doing undergrad now with us, they should really investigate that as a matter of urgency. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think University of Law is giving many options in general. For example, like if they will finish a degree and they will not find a job within 6 months after they finish the degree, they get in 50% of fees back and 50% for the future course. So I think free courses, free masters, and the university itself is giving a lot.
Yeah, there is this employability promise. I think it's actually 9 months, I think.
Okay.
And there are certain criteria that the students have to have fulfilled. For instance, they will have had to been able to pass all the modules in the first take, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So people just need to know that these things they come with, they're conditional. So there are certain conditions that they have to fulfill. But it is definitely there, and it is because we believe in the quality of what we deliver.
Definitely.
And the employability of the students following having gone through the courses. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm graduated myself from University of Law, so definitely quality is there. I was studying LLMs.
Thank you.
Okay, so it's worth it also to mention that all the both courses students can study on campus or online. Do you think there is any difference between online teaching and on-campus teaching?
I mean, it different things for different people, really. Some people, for online, I think you need to have a very good self-discipline.
Yeah.
It's a different way of learning. You have to kind of be more self-motivated. It kind of gives you an opportunity to kind of control the pace a bit yourself, which might be more convenient for some people. Other people, they more thrive on integrating with people face to face, being part of a group, working in a team, and that is always more complicated and difficult if you do a degree online. But the online, as I said, suits people that want to kind of have more control, are not willing or not wanting or not capable of committing themselves to specific times every week. So the number of lessons we have means that students in the first semester have to come in probably about 3 days a week in a face-to-face delivery. In the second and third semester, we try and limit it to 2 days, which kind of gives them more flexibility. But it may still be too much for people. They might have care responsibilities, they might have families, they might need to work. So an online mode may kind of be convenient for them. And as I said, it offers flexibility, but it also requires you to be more kind of self-motivated and more disciplined, because it's so easy to, I'll catch up over the weekend. I'll do it when the kids go to bed. I'll do it tonight, and then nothing happens. And I'm speaking from experience there, because I'm doing a postgraduate certificate in higher education, doing it online. And due to pressures of work, it's been impossible for me to engage, because we construct our degrees, and people see that when they join us, that we follow the PAC model. So it's prepare, engage, consolidate. So before the classes, you're supposed to engage in some prepare activities. You then go to the class and you do the engage section. And then after you finish, you then do your consolidate afterwards. So on your own, you kind of go through activities there to kind of consolidate and cement that knowledge that you gained in the class. Out of the 9 workshops that I was supposed to attend, even though it was online, there was 1 workshop a week. I managed to attend 3, and for those 3, I managed to prepare properly for 1 of them. So I just told myself, no, I need to intermit here, because there's no way.
So if you're gonna give us a tip for all the students, if they prefer online or attending campus, so which one you prefer?
Me personally,
Yeah,
it suits me better to do face-to-face.
yeah, I agree with that, because at least you will have opportunity to speak with other students about the ideas.
Well,
about the
online
classes,
when
have
you
more knowledge.
online when you attend the classes on the live session, you can speak with the students and your teacher as well.
And you can create a study group with people that are with you in the class, and we encourage people to do that, because you can then kind of set up sessions for your own. But for me, for me personally, and that's just my personal kind of the way that I am built, with all my faults, is that just have it in the timetable that I'm going there and I go there. I mean, it didn't work with the online one because maybe I didn't take it seriously enough myself, but I was allowing other meetings to take priority, meetings admittedly that I had to attend. But I think for online, there is a certain amount of flexibility there that suits a lot of people. And as I said, people can do that at their own pace. And you can still get some elements of the face-to-face delivery, such as this kind of team bonding in a way, but it's always going to be online with your fellow students that you might kind of want to kind of partner up with or buddy up with. And we do encourage people to do that. But I mean, I think it kind of, you have to look at yourself. What suits you better as a learner? Because we all have different ways of learning. So it might suit you better to be able to just kind of sit away somewhere on your own, engage in the material, and then come to these online sessions and kind of take part in it, and then maybe partner up with one or two other people to have further discussions in your own time that suits you, rather than having to come on Wednesdays at 11 o'clock.
It's all about time management, and this is very important skill for the future managers.
Absolutely, and it's one of the skills that's we do talk about in the professional development sessions. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, coming back to certificates. So once students will finish strategic business management or project management, they have an accreditation?
Yes, so we have for the strategic business management students, they get their academic certificate once they completed it successfully. But then it is accredited by the CMI, of which I'm a fellow of FCMI. So the CMI, Chartered Management Institute, has accredited the courses. The students do not do anything extra. They just do their assessments. And the CMI, we have kind of incorporated the CMI requirements into the modules and the assessments. So the students do not need to do anything extra. And we are working towards getting the same thing for project management. So we're looking at two professional bodies, which is the APMI and the PMI, to kind of see which one of them or both of them we would go for. These accreditations obviously are quite expensive, and they usually require us to pay for the student, or at least give the student a discounted membership to these organizations. But often and regularly it is worth it, because these organizations have a vast library of sources that are very useful to the students during the studies, and if they choose to maintain the membership once they graduate, they then again have a vast access to a vast materials that they can then use in the professional life. So, and I think again it's also getting them to realize and engage with the professions.
Yeah,
networking events and so on.
Even only CMI is, I think, expensive as well. Yeah, a couple of £1,000 CMI costs, or I'm wrong?
The CMI membership as a member, I think it's something like £100 or £190 for you as an individual if you want to become a member of the CMI. So you can sign up as an individual. So it's not prohibitively expensive, but it's not. I wouldn't necessarily say that it's ultra cheap.
Okay, I think maybe I mixed up with ICCA. ICCA is, I think, £8,000 once.
Yeah, that might be different to accounting and law societies. I'm not familiar with those. Okay. But I mean, the other problem is that a lot of the international students, that these organizations, especially the CMI and the CIPD, which is for the human resources sector, they're not necessarily very prominent in their home countries. Okay. So the students may not necessarily see an immediate benefit from engaging with them, but a lot of these organizations are starting to work more globally.
They can always put it next to their name, and that will look more professional.
Absolutely, absolutely. And at least it shows that they have the professional links, and that would be valuable, I think, in any country, because any employers will know that they're not just book wise, but they know how to apply it in a work setting.
My other question in regards to project management is, to become a project manager, you have to learn some software, if I'm correct. Do you guys teach that program software, which I think the course is quite expensive as well?
Yeah. So again, you have obviously Prince 2, and you can do the kind of the foundation level, and then the advanced level, and then I think the training level. There's Agile, there's Scrum. There are loads of these things out there, and we haven't aligned ourselves with any one of these particularly, because often when you look at these large companies like Tata Motors or Tata Global or kind of these KPMG consultancy companies, they will most likely they will have a program management software, project management software that has been specifically adapted to them.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got Microsoft projects as well that people can kind of get through their Windows, their Microsoft Office package. So in a way, all these various software project management packages, they all work from the same kind of fundamental foundations of concepts and terminology. So that is where we kind of emphasize our teaching. We introduce them to some of the Prince2 terminology and Agile and Scrum and others, but we don't align ourselves with anyone in particular. I think the Prince2 Foundation one, I think might be somewhere between 1,000 and 2,000. I'm not entirely sure. So it can be quite expensive. I think often for people once they graduate, they would not necessarily be able to, and that would even with a project management. So let's say a Prince2 certificate, they wouldn't be able to walk into a project management position because that is usually hired, or companies hire into those positions based on people's track record of managing projects. So people should be able to go in as an assistant or an associate within the team and kind of work their way up. And during that time, they would be able to kind of master the project software that's being used with that particular organization. But obviously, it helps having Prince2 or Agile or Scrum or whatever. But we haven't gone down the road of aligning ourselves with anyone in particular there.
For those people who have higher ambitions, they can start the degree and the Prince2, for example, in the same time. That would be the best option.
Absolutely. And it would be kind of mutually kind of supportive.
Do you have any question?
No, thank you.
Especially, for example, when we, if the Prince2 is expensive, when students applying for the student finance to get the loan to pay for the course, and the loan is around 12,000, and the course, I think now it's 9,000 pounds, right? Or it's more expensive?
I think the MSCs are more expensive than that for international students. Unfortunately, because I'm not involved in these, I don't have the fees. So the undergrad, I think, is 9,000 something for the year. I think the postgrad is a bit more expensive than that, but I'm not entirely sure. I should have gotten that information before I came here, so I do apologize. Maybe you can add that later.
Last year,
I think.
Sorry to say, interrupt. Last year it was 9,000, I think 500 for home fees, because we're dealing with the students with settled, pre-settled status, and the student finance is nearly 12,000 pounds. So what I'm trying to say, if someone doesn't have money, for example, to buy the Prince2 software or any course, they can use this leftover finance if they want to start the degree, and for the rest of the money, they can start Prince2, for example. Because I know for some people, 2,000 pounds spending for Prince is a lot of money, but we know that for the postgraduate alone, they can use this difference. My next question is, what is the job opportunity for the students finishing strategic business management, where they can work?
I would like to say everywhere. I think, to be honest, I think with both these degrees, I think they are quite, because for the strategic business management one, I mean, all companies, regardless of sector, regardless of type of companies, they will all have to engage in some form of strategy in terms of how they're going to move themselves forward. They need to have someone that understands kind of the holistics of the operation, so not necessarily only focused on finance. They also understand kind of the fundamentals of managing the operations, managing the production lines, understanding some of the finance issues that might be at play, understanding some of the HR issues that might be at play. How do you secure yourself the right type of people that work for the company going forward, and so on and so forth. And I think whether it is within the private sector, whether it is a production company or a service-oriented company, consultancy or professional services company or anything like that, or a public sector organization, they would all need someone that has that kind of wide remit. So again, it would be down to the student's own kind of interest where they would like to go. With the project management again, I think companies are moving more and more towards running their operations through kind of mini projects, and I think not all projects are kind of tunnels under the English Channel, or digging tunnels through mountains, or building a new railway link between two major cities. These are kind of master, sort of like major infrastructure projects. But most companies also have smaller projects, implementing a new service division, introducing something new to their operations, going into a new market. That can be seen as a project, and they are kind of defining themselves differently. So as a project manager, you might, or having no notion of project management methodology and concepts, you can apply that to those companies.
For example, Motivation Academy, we want to expand abroad, like next year in China. So I will be looking for the project manager who will take this project.
Yeah, you might want to have someone in strategy to kind of do your market analysis, your kind of strategic options. Are you gonna do that as Motivation Academy, or are you gonna partner up with a Chinese partner to do a strategic alliance and things like that? So there might be those kind of things, but then also once you've decided to do that, you might then want the project manager to kind of help you to kind of say, okay, so what are the stages? How am I supposed to now approach the implementation of this?
Mm-hmm.
And that is where the project manager might come in and say, okay, this is what we need. These are your desired outcomes. This is kind of the people that you have. These are the people that we need. These are the stakeholders we need to engage with. So off we go. We need to first, and it's kind of sequencing things. And I mean, we all do that ourselves. I mean, I don't know whether you've ever bought an apartment or built your garden shed. I mean, you can choose the paint that you're going to have on your walls, but you can't start painting them until you actually get the keys to the flat. Definitely. Or that you build about the shed. So it's kind of knowing which sequence of events need to be. What is the project management, and I sometimes say it's kind of finding the critical path in that. That would be the shortest possible time to do it. And kind of the sequence of it. You can't do C before you've done A. You can't do F until you've done X, and so on and so forth.
Even my parents always laughing when I'm taking, for example, buying a new flat, and then I'm taking the designer to design everything from the beginning. They say, no, you're wasting money. And I'm saying, no, you will say, and then my mom did the bathroom refurbishment. I said, look, how much time you spent on looking for the products, colors, and then you choose something wrong because it was like too big, too small. And by having even design is like a project when you can plan and you can achieve with the small goals. So planning is very important.
Exactly, planning and kind of understanding kind of the parameters, and that is where the project manager can help you. So they can fit into in a lot of sectors. I think it's always very important for students to understand what sectors are they interested in, what kind of company do they want to work for, and then when they're choosing, because often when we do assessments, the students can have some flexibility in what type of company they choose to focus on, or what industry they want to look at, and they can then tailor that to their own interests. And then when they go for job interviews, they can use that knowledge they gained to kind of show their knowledge of that particular industry, which always impresses employees.
It's all about also the background of the person, I think, because someone from the engineering will go for engineering project, construction to construction, business to business. So it's
quite possibly, yes.
Yeah. Also, I have one friend, for example, if our people who are watching us, they want to know what kind of projects they can, where they can find a job. I have a friend working for British Gas as well, and they have different projects. And I had also one student a few days ago, and he said, I want to do strategic business. And I said, maybe project management is a very good degree. He said, no, because strategic business, I will find one job and I will stay in that job forever. But with the project, I will have to find employment all the time. What do you think about this sentence?
There's yes and no in both of them. I think it's quite optimistic to think that you find your first job and you're going to stay in that job for life. I'm not sure that the job market necessarily works like that. There was a time when people were saying that, I think it was Generation Y, like to have kind of a mixed bag, kind of a portfolio of jobs. And then I think it was there was Ernst & Young, the consultants. They did a survey amongst kind of that generation of individuals, kind of who probably are now between 25 and 35. And much to everyone's surprise, those individuals, they wanted stability. They didn't want to kind of go for a job and be there for 3 years, then move to the next one, be there for 3 years, then go to the next one. They wanted more longevity, surprisingly enough. But I'm not sure that, because when you find your first job, it may be the one that was easiest to get at the time. It may not necessarily offer you the progression that you want within your chosen field. So you may want to kind of look around, kind of be open to opportunities that present themselves. I mean, when I was kind of younger, I wanted to be an architect, I wanted to be a psychiatrist, I wanted to be a designer, I wanted to be a graphic designer, it was never part of my plan to become a university lecturer.
But you almost have everything anyway.
Sorry?
You almost have everything anyway.
No, well, there is no graphic design.
I wish. But with project management, you see, there are loads of companies that have permanent project managers. They work within the company, and because the companies are running so many projects. And one of my former colleagues, his wife worked for Procter & Gamble, which is a large international company. And they had loads and loads and loads of projects going. And she was there permanently. She worked there for I think 10, 15 years. And she just worked from this project. When that was finished, the project team was dissolved, and she went on to another project. There's endless projects. I mean, we have projects here at the university. There are projects in consultancy companies. There are projects in manufacturing companies, in large, like Tesco's, large supermarkets here in the UK. They will have several projects on the go at every given time. So if you have your project management skills, you don't necessarily have to move from one company to the next. You might find that you go to a large company that has a string of projects going on. Yeah. So it's kind of, I mean, the future is ever changing, and I mean, I say sometimes to my students that here at the university, we're actually preparing you for jobs we don't really know are going to exist in 3-4 years' time.
Yeah.
I mean, if you had said to someone in the 1990s, I'm going to be an app developer, and they would say, what's that? Or develops app for smartphones. What's a smartphone?
Yeah, true.
See, these things change so quickly.
Yeah, and
so it is kind of opening people's minds up and kind of eyeing opportunities, be willing to go for opportunities when they present themselves.
But I think the project management job that will never finish. Even the automation and all this stuff. I think always the human needs to be there to manage people. Well, we never know. Like with this.
Well, if only organizing the project of implementing the automation.
Yeah.
and then maintaining it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, which degree, in your opinion, is better, or you can get better paid job? Because I heard that some project managers, they even earning £100,000 per year, which is really a lot of money.
Oh, good question. It's difficult to say. I mean, if you look at job advertisements, there will be, if you look at some of these job websites, they are advertising for project managers. Now, for a project manager to earn £100,000 a year, you have to be very good at your job, and you have to have a very good track record to back that up. Partly, I think it may also be that those kind of jobs often are more on a consultant basis than a permanent job basis. So people are being paid because they're coming in for a limited period of time to blitz something through, and then they move on. And that is kind of where your student said, going from one company to the next.
Yeah.
So those things will always be there, absolutely. And obviously, the higher salary, the more demands there will be on you as an individual, on your capabilities, and the expectations of what you can deliver. And students should not expect to do an MSc in project management and go out and find a job that's going to pay them £100,000 a year. It's going to take them some time to develop the skills and experience to get to that level. With the strategic business management, I mean, there are strategists who are being paid equal amount of money if they again have proven themselves to be great forward thinkers. And I sometimes say to my students, it's all a question of how you interpret the information you have in front of you. And there's a famous interview that was done with the CEO of IBM back in the 1970s, and he said, "Oh, the computers will never become a household thing. They're too big and they're too expensive." Little did he know that not so many years later we would have a more powerful computer in our pockets as a mobile phone.
Yeah.
So and we have companies like Kodak, who was the giant when it came to films, and there wasn't a movie made that didn't have a Kodak, wasn't recorded on a Kodak film. That company is almost invisible now.
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask you a very crazy question.
I'm scared.
I'm always
We like crazy questions.
So as a director, yeah, how you guys decide which courses you will teach? As you said that you prepare people to future jobs. So how do you guys choose the right things to teach to people to prepare them for what it's coming? Do you guys have a meeting room with all the people? You just have something up on top of the university?
They need to watch the industry, right?
Something?
What is going on?
Well, you see, this question is not crazy. It's actually a very good question, because we are obviously continuously developing our degrees, and even the project management degree, the strategic business management degree, it's different to what it was 2 years ago, and it's going to be different in 2 years' time, because we need to move with the market. We need to make sure that the students that go through it are getting the latest things that are most prevalent, the most important thing to the market when they come out. Otherwise, they're not going to be employable. When it comes to which degrees, because we've got 12 different degrees. We've got business analytics, we've got cybersecurity, we've got corporate finance, marketing, and so on. And those degrees, we've got innovation and entrepreneurship. Those degrees, we kind of try and understand, what does the market want? What is the market looking for? And we have an advisory board of representatives from large companies who we sit down with on a regular basis, both to discuss our existing degrees, but also to discuss, is there anything that you think the market is wanting that we may not necessarily be having now? So we are continuously reviewing our portfolio of degrees to kind of make sure that we are actually up to scratch with what the market wants. But there's always a but. It's not easy to put on a new degree, and we can't necessarily do that quickly. It probably takes about a year, 2 years to prepare and develop a new degree from scratch. So if we wanted to do a new degree in a Master of Science in interior design, because we haven't done that, I'm just grabbing that kind of out of nowhere, we would have to kind of start looking at kind of the market forces behind it. We would have to start thinking about, do we have the team to deliver it? What team would be best kind of put together to deliver that degree successfully? What modules should be in that particular degree that would make it exciting for the students and for the market, for the employers when the students graduate? And so it's a good question, but it's a complicated one.
And which module is your favorite one from these 2 courses, and why?
Oh, I'm biased. I love strategy.
Okay. I
just love thinking about the market, where the market is moving, how are things progressing, where are we going to be in 5 years' time? And I know it's a cliched question, but it is a very good question, because you have to take so many things into account. You need to look at kind of technology advancements, and I mean, we know that they move so fast we can barely keep up with them. What we've got now, artificial intelligence, that is completely changing everything. So having to try and look at what could the impact of that be. So I find that very interesting. I find marketing, even though it is not it was my field as part of my undergrad degree, but it isn't part of my postgrad field per se. I do really like marketing, because again, it's kind of, how do we not sell to people, but how do we get the information out there of what we offer? I find that quite exciting as well.
I think, to be honest, marketing now is leading the world. If you think about it, like really
because you
properly.
think about social media, isn't it?
No, if you not only about social media, whatever you want to do now in this future life we're going through, if you didn't do marketing to it to prepare it, you will never achieve the goal that you want to.
That is true up to a point. I think also for marketing, how are you going to engage your marketing tools? Who are you going to target? Why are you targeting them and not someone else? And that is where strategy comes in. I will always bring it back to strategy.
Yeah.
But it's kind of a marketing strategy. I mean, you have so if you're wanting to get to a certain group of people, there are a certain group of people that will use certain types of media. So if you, for instance, at the moment, if you want to kind of engage with the 60-year plus, you wouldn't be using social media much because that is not a medium they engage much with. Yes, there are exceptions. I mean, my mother in her 80s, she was using Skype and her tablet and all the rest of it. But generally speaking, people are not very much engaging with that at that age.
Still TV and radio.
Yeah, well, yeah, it is. So it's kind of, you kind of need to that is where the strategy comes in, your marketing strategies. You would need to think, how am I going to do it? But I absolutely agree with you. Nobody's going to buy or use your service if they don't know you exist and if they don't know where to find you. So obviously you have to engage with marketing.
So for now, as you're speaking with us now, do you have any strategy for future, maybe for 5 years? From now on,
for what?
I don't know. Maybe he has some strategy. Do you have any
for myself or for my programs or
for the university, for courses, for what to study in the future or something?
As a program director, you mean?
Yeah, something.
Yeah.
For the next
if there is
5 years?
anything is coming up and we don't know, maybe if you wanna.
Well, so these programs as they are now, they were launched after a periodic review. And they were launched last September 2022. So we are already looking at kind of the recruitment for these programs, which programs are not recruiting at all. So there might not be an interest for them in the market. What are we going to do with those programs? Are we going to just shelf them? Are we going to park them? Are we going to introduce new ones? That is kind of where we are at the moment. We're kind of thinking, we're continuously, we live in a world of continuous change. And things move extremely fast. So my only strategy is how can we best keep up with those changes? To some extent, how can we get ahead of them sometimes? But we only can do that if we're following really what the market is, where the market is moving. And I think at the moment, the market is moving very much towards even more digitalization. We've got the artificial intelligence, so we need to kind of think about how can we incorporate that effectively in our degrees and in our kind of activities. And that is kind of where we're at the moment. We are, in terms of student recruitment, we're kind of thinking of where can we get kind of to kind of make sure that the students, when they come to us, they get the international experience. So students who are coming from us from abroad, they want to get the international experience. I would like to ask you 2 or 3 questions when we go offline about some courses. And we passed nearly 50 minutes of this podcast. We usually speak in 35. So thank you very much for today. It was very nice to have you today. And if you can stay with me for 1 minute after, I will put the end of the podcast video.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.